Okay, just like during the retinoscopy, we're made to understand that while my streak was vertical and then my movement was along the 180, plus 150 neutralized the horizontal meridian. So I write it this way. So then, while my streak was horizontal and my movement was along the 90 meridian or vertical meridian, plus 1 neutralized it for me. So the same thing for this left eye as well. Plus 1 and plus 150 neutralized it for me. So then, what plus 150 was my walking distance. So now, which one do I take as my sphere? So the highest plus should be the sphere, and if both meridian are minus sphere, that means you have to take the least minus as your sphere. Very important. Least minus as your sphere and highest plus as your sphere. So this time around, I also need to subtract my walking distance of plus 150. So since this is my sphere, plus 150 minus 150 makes it plano. Plano. Then, how do I get my cylinder? The difference between the two spheres will give me my cylinder. And as an optometrist, we typically make use of minus cylinder. So I'm going to subtract the big one from the small one. So which is plus 1 minus 150, which is minus 050. Minus 050. Then axis what? What axis do I take? I'm going to take the axis of the sphere, or the axis of the higher plus. So that is to say, what axis do I take? So you see, this plus 150 has an axis of 90, while this plus 1 has an axis of 180. Where the power ends is where the axis. Where the power ends is where the axis is, right? So now plus 1 has an axis 180. So that's to say, I'm going to take the axis of the lower plus. Axis of the lower plus. This is 180. So the same thing applies to this. Plano as well. So I will subtract my walking distance. Plano minus 050, axis 180. Now, subjective. What is my subjective findings? My subjective findings is basically when I try to frame my patient with this my retinoscopic finding, then I'm going to fine tune it. What do I mean by fine tuning it? I'm going to give the patient the lenses, using this as a point of reference, the lenses that gives the patient optimal VA and also comfortable, clear and comfortable vision. That is what my target should be. So for now, I cannot actually get my subjective finding because my patient is not here and I'm not trying framing my patient. So now, let me just reiterate what I have said. This time around, Okay, so this is very clear. When my streak was vertical, my movement during the scoping, though you might not notice that I'm carrying out a horizontal movement because it's kind of in a microscopic state. The movement is very small. So while I was scoping, you might not notice it, but I'm actually doing it. And you have to make that movement for you to attain neutrality, for you to know that you've actually neutralized the meridian. So while I was trying to neutralize my horizontal meridian, my retinoscopic streak was actually vertical. Then the power that neutralized my horizontal meridian, at that point, I place it here. Streak, retinoscope streak, vertical. Neutrality, you place it at your horizontal meridian. Retinoscopic streak, horizontal. You move vertical. Then the power that took you to neutrality, you place it here at the vertical meridian. Now, coming to which axis or what axis are you going to take? I said you take the axis of the lower plus. Initially, you took the higher plus as your sphere. Now, this time around, the axis you are going to take is the axis of the lower plus. You understand with me that this meridian has an axis of 180, while this meridian of plus 150 has an axis of 90. So now the axis you're going to take is axis 180. So this is it, right? So this 150, when I subtract my walking distance, it becomes plano. Plano minus 050, axis 180. The same thing, since they have the same power also took us to this neutrality. Plano minus 050 at 180. So my subjective finding, I just will use my retinoscopic finding as a guide and fine-tune it and arrive at a final prescription that gave my patient a clear and comfortable vision. So this is what this is all about. From your scoping, your retinoscopy, the target you're going to give your patient, so as to relax accommodation, to attaining neutrality. So there are different signs that actually tell you that you've attained neutrality. So sometimes you see a scissors reflex, other times the pupil just gets filled with light. That is what actually tells you that you attain neutrality. But with constant practice, you're going to master it. And sometimes you're just going to note neutrality when your reflex is the brightest. You make use of the brightest reflex as your neutrality. So with this, I believe that you can be able to actually perform retinoscopy on your own. Thank you.